we can have all the right strategies and tactics and all the stuff when it comes to food and nutrition and exercise, but yet we can't get ourselves out of bed in the morning, or we binge eat all the time, or we emotionally or stress eat all the time because we don't know how to cope with life. So this is where knowledge gives you the capability to get there. Personal growth gives you the ability to not shoot yourself in the foot constantly on the way to getting to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be going through the 5 key ingredients for sustainable weight loss.
Oh, man.
So you lose the weight and you never gain it back again, okay? So we're going to jump right in. Colton, start us off with number 1.
Number 1 is going to be having a goal and or vision. Whenever it comes to anything you want to achieve, you got to have a clear vision of where you're going. So not only where you're going, but also how you're going to get there. So you need to have the right resources, the right tools, the right instruction, what have you. And not only do you need to know where and how, but also you need to have some leverage. So you need to know why you're going there in the first place.
Yeah.
So since our main topic around the podcast is being healthy and whole, we typically refer to weight loss. So why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to live a healthier lifestyle? You need to have some sort of leverage to continue to motivate you even through the challenging seasons, which it will get challenging.
Yeah. I think people really underestimate this one because people say, yes, I understand that I need to have a goal. I have a weight loss goal. I know where I want to be, but that's not enough because you may know that you want to lose 50 pounds, 75 pounds, whatnot. But the way I think about this is that it really needs to be like a brochure.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You need to have such clarity around your goal and where you want to be that you're really super connected to like how it's going to feel to be there. Like a brochure to Disney World, right? Like, I know how I'm going to feel. I know the clothes I'm going to wear. I know the different environments and the experiences and how everything is going to be different when I get there. And I'm so freaking excited to get there that I just like, I'd want to get up and run through a wall to get there. And I don't think people ever actually stop and sit down to get really good clarity on their goal and vision before they get started. Yeah. They just kind of say, I want to lose weight, help me lose weight. And then they get started and they kind of wonder why am I feeling unmotivated?
Yeah.
After 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Yeah. It sounds so cliche. Like you remember your why whenever you're going through your journey and everything, but it's so crucial because initially when you first start, you're highly motivated, ready to go. And the reason why is because you have a sense of urgency. It's like, I have to do something about this.
Yeah.
But then once you see some progress and get halfway through, the motivation kind of dies down because there's not that sense of urgency. So we need to continuously have a strong enough why to give us that leverage to continue on, especially whenever we're feeling a little complacent or when we're comfortable and we're not exactly where we want to be. We're just kind of in this, what I call the no man's land. You're just sitting where you don't have enough leverage to get anywhere, but you're also not where you want to be. So it's crucial to have those 3 things, in my opinion, when it comes to a goal and a vision. So your where, your how, and your why.
Yeah, so I love what you just touched on because I think people overlook it. Basically, if you want to be permanently and sustainably successful with weight loss, you have to really be thinking long term, right? So the reason I say goals and vision is because you have to have goals, right? Both short term and long term. I know where I ultimately want to end up. And I have short-term goals that will motivate me and not make me feel overwhelmed in the short term. But something that I think people rarely do is actually think long-term, okay, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line, what do I want my life to look like?
Yeah.
Because when we're talking about being truly healthy and whole, it's way more than physical results. It's way more than your health, your physical health, your weight, your the way your body looks, the way you feel in your clothes, your flexibility, your strength, your energy. It's way more than all of that. It's what do you actually want your life to look like?
Yeah.
And what are you building? Like literally, what are you building with your life? Because when you really stop and you really put together not just goals, but a vision for your entire life that encompasses your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and your career and your relationships and your romantic relationships, and you actually put it all together in one, then not only is that super motivating, but I think that is what will really carry you through what you're describing, which is that pit,
Yeah,
right? Where you start and you get some initial progress and then you get complacent.
absolutely.
Right. And it's easy to get complacent when we're just pursuing, what I would call like a small stakes, a low stakes goal of just some weight loss. But when it's your whole life and when you're actually thinking in terms of a vision for your whole life, then it's a lot more, I think, motivating in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I would say with goals and vision before we move on is that goal and vision is not something that you set once and then you move on and you're good, right? It is actually something that you have to revisit periodically throughout your journey, right? Because you are changing as you go out through your journey and you're losing weight and you're actually becoming, if you're doing it right, you're becoming a different person.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so as you lose weight and as you learn and as you grow and you become this different person, inch by inch, step by step, then your goals and your desires change too. Right. And so, every 3 to 6 months, I think it's really important that you sit down and you rewrite out. You sort of go through the whole goal envisioning process again. Write down what's important to you. Rewrite your vision for your life to make sure, because it does change and it kind of drifts over time, right? What's important to you on day 1 of your journey may not be as important to you on month 6 or month 12 or month 24.
Right.
But other things may have risen up on that list. Your priorities shift as you change and you grow as a person. So I just want to make sure that people understand that this is not something that is a one and done activity. And that's why when we're talking about long-term sustainable weight loss, right? All of the things that we're going to talk about today are things that you essentially are going to probably need for the rest of your life when it comes to real long-term sustainable weight loss, right?
100%.
So, which is a good segue into number 2 on our list today, which is coaching and guidance. The reason I put coaching and guidance as number 2 is not just because I'm a coach and you're a coach and we have a program where we coach people. It's really coming from my own life experience with this. And a lot of people, they can go that first step and they can set goals and they can maybe even sit down and come up with a vision that they're excited about. But sometimes when people set goals, they start to feel really uncomfortable because they're like, oh my gosh, I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to lose 100 pounds and never gain it back. But Matt, I've already lost this weight, or a portion of this weight 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times in my life and gained it back. So there's this huge issue of belief. And maybe they've done a bunch of different programs like Optavia or Weight Watchers or different things like that, different solutions to try to get where they wanted to be, but they never actually really aligned themselves with like a real effective coach or, mentor to guide them through the process. And so they're coming into it with a lack of belief in themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're like, yeah, I have the goal, and some people are just hesitant to set goals because in their past experience, when I set goals, I don't meet the goals. And then I feel bad and I feel like a failure. And so I don't even want to set goals, right? So, but we've got to set goals to get where we want to be. So the next important thing to do, I think, is to hire a coach or find a mentor, even if it's not a paid coach, someone who has done what you're trying to do and can help and wants to help and guide you through the process. It's super important to have that because that person is your ability to short circuit your need for belief in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to believe in yourself to be successful with weight loss. Mm-hmm. You just need the right strategy. You need to know how to do it, the path, the roadmap to get there. You need someone to help you get unstuck in the inevitable times where you get stuck and don't know the path forward. You need someone to see what you're not seeing. You need someone to hold you accountable and to put a boot to your butt when you are being lazy or when you're making excuses. You need someone to help you brainstorm solutions when you have a problem that you're not sure how to get around. And when you're out there on your own doing this and you don't have someone, a coach and a team of coaches to help you do it, then you're just trying to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
And if your history of trying to figure things out on your own has just been a path of failures, then you already don't have the belief that you're going to be able to do it on your own. And so it's really easy to give up.
Yeah. There's something to be said about having someone who's been in your shoes or been in those shoes before and has gotten through that and understands what the journey looks like and can then guide you through each step. Like, hey, you're going to go through this pit. Like it's going to suck. You're going to not want to do anything here. But I'm here to keep you accountable through that time and, lean into me. And I think a lot of the times whenever people kind of get to that area, they get a little complacent because they're like, well, I did so good in the beginning and I know what I'm doing. And maybe sometimes they have the feeling of, well, I don't want to burden them with, my problems or I know what I need to do. I just need to do it and stuff like that. It's like, that's our job to push you through those things, give you that gentle nudge through those, those hard times because it's going to get challenging.
Absolutely. I think that's what people underestimate when it comes to real long-term permanent sustainable weight loss. They sort of expect that once I get started and I'm starting to get results, it's just I just got to keep doing it, right? And I'll get there. But there are inevitable plateaus, inevitable pits that every client or every person, every individual on that journey will reach, where you basically have to grow through that plateau. You have to learn, you have to grow as a person to be able to overcome it, right? And, it is so invaluable to have, like you said, professionals or people who have already walked the walk. I like to use the analogy of a mountain climber, right?
Yep.
Nobody climbs Mount Everest without a mountain guide, right? Why do you have a mountain guide? Because the mountain guide knows the route up the mountain. They know the most treacherous spots to avoid. And that mountain guide is going to get you there safely and faster than if you tried to climb that mountain on your own. And that's where a coach is really valuable, I think. Yeah.
100%.
So coaching and guidance, I think, is important. Just to wrap that point up, it's important not just so that you can get there faster. It's important so that you can. It makes the whole journey easier, right? Like imagine climbing the mountain too. Would you feel safer? Would you have a lower amount of stress climbing Mount Everest with a professional next to you?
Oh yeah.
Or would you feel better climbing it by yourself, right? The actual experience of going through a journey like pursuing permanent weight loss is mentally and emotionally so much easier when you have someone to confide in and to talk to and to vent to. And like when you're super frustrated because it's been 10 days or 14 days and your scale hasn't gone down and you feel like you've been doing everything right, like you need to have someone that you can go to who's going to be able to sit down with you and listen to you complain, because that's a normal part of the journey. But B, then they're going to be able to say, okay, cool, but let's talk about how things are really going.
Yeah.
Let's look for opportunities. Maybe I can see something that you're not seeing. Yeah. You think you're doing everything right, but 9 times out of 10, you're not doing everything right. You're experiencing what we call drift, which is where over time, your portions drift, or over time your life drifts. And then all of a sudden you're maybe walking a little bit less or being a little bit less active, or maybe you're only getting 2 workouts a week instead of 3, or maybe you're eating out 2 more times a week than you were before. And that's a big impact, right? And it's so hard to see those things yourself because you're in it, you're in the game, right?
Yeah.
And you need someone else to help you see those things. So number 1, ingredient, goal and vision. Number 2, coaching and guidance. And the last thing I just want to hit on here when it comes to coaching and guidance is just like goals and vision. When it comes to having coaches and guidance, this is not something that you just do in the beginning and then you never need it again, right? This is something that it took me a long time to learn this, and I actually learned it the hard way.
Oh man.
Okay, so when I've had so many different amazing coaches and mentors and therapists and just people who have poured into me, who I either hired or people who I just naturally came into my life, friends, mentors, relatives, pastors, things like that, who have been a mentor for me throughout the years. And one thing that I made a mistake where I remember when I started this business, right? I started the coaching program. I hired a business coach. First, I tried to do it on my own, and it did not go well at all, right? About 3 months into me owning our gym, I was freaking out because I did not know how to continue to grow. We had plateaued, and I was freaking out. I was at the end of my skill and my knowledge levels, right? And so I hired this business coach, and this business coach was amazing program. And he taught me and he coached me and his team coached me through doubling our business, our client rosters, and really started to help me grow and build the program that we have now. And I got a little bit cocky because toward about the end of my first year with that coach, COVID happened. And when COVID happened, our gym got shut down for 2 months, and I got into a scarcity mindset, and I started worrying about money a little bit too much. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pause. I'm not going to work with you right now. I need to work on, saving some money so we can make it through this rough patch with COVID. The gym's closed, all that stuff. I just don't know what's going to happen. So I stopped working with that business coach. We stopped growing completely. For the next about 8 months that I didn't have a business coach, we just treaded water, right? And we didn't grow, and I started to get really, really frustrated. And then what did I do? I was like, okay, I feel like I need a coach again. So I went back and I hired who's my coach now, and guess what we did? We doubled our client rosters and our business again, right? And I learned that lesson. That was when I learned the lesson. I was like, you know what? I will never be without a coach or a mentor again. And it's so funny because now I look back, and when I look at my coaches and my mentors and all the people, like all the really successful people that I try to surround myself with and align myself with, whether I'm paying them or not, what is super interesting, I use my business coach as an example. Mike, he is so far ahead of me in the realm of entrepreneurship and business, has such a successful, program in and of itself that he leads, that I could almost never catch up to him. Right. And he's a super solid guy, mentally and emotionally, super great health, financially, doing extremely well, all of those things. You would look at him and you would think he's got it all together. He doesn't need coaches. He doesn't need therapists. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need health coaches. He doesn't need business coaches. Like, he's got it figured out. No, he has tons of coaches and mentors. He still meets with a therapist and a somatic therapist several times a month. Yeah. And that's what really made this whole thing click for me when it came to coaching and guidance, is that you don't need coaching and guidance to just overcome a hump to get you started. The people who I know who are the most successful authors, entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, athletes, people in the world who just like are thriving and doing amazing things and having an amazing impact on the world. And even outside of that, people who are normal day-to-day people who just see, like, you look at them and they're just thriving. Almost all of them, despite the fact that they're thriving, they still go to therapy, or they still have coaches and mentors. And it's like, why? Why do you still have all of this support around you? Why do you pay to have these people? And they're like, because this is what keeps me on the path of continuous learning and growth.
Yeah, that's the point. It's not having someone who's got it all figured out. It's having someone who's a couple steps ahead of you on where you want to be.
Yes.
And even then, they have people who are a couple steps ahead of them 100%. On where they want to be. And it's just this long train of success.
Yes. And it's a never-ending path. That's the point, right? Last point here before we move on to the next one is, I've heard Alex Hormozy talks about the difference between a finite game and an infinite game, right? And people who play a finite game are just in it to achieve a goal. Like, when I'm in this because I want to be 150 pounds or 130 pounds or 115 pounds, whatever it is, for you, right? And I'm in it for that goal. And it's like, what happens when you get there? Do you just stop doing all the things? Do you stop working with the coach? Do you stop surrounding yourself with certain people? And logically, we would say, of course not. But yet, that's what so many people do.
Yeah.
Right? They get there and they celebrate, and then they're done. But they're not done. What they actually start doing is gaining all the weight back. Right? And so but if an infinite game is where you play, you're playing the game, you're on the journey for the journey, right? Meaning, like, I understand this is a never-ending path. Being healthy and being whole permanently, and sustainably there is no finish line to it, which I know sounds cliche, but it is so true, right? And that's why, if you look at the statistics, are really bad for permanent weight loss. It's like 1 in 10, less than 1 in 10 people in the world seem to achieve permanent and sustainable weight loss. But I guarantee you, if you look at all of those 1 in 10 people, they're not out there just like solo in the world doing it all on their own. They have coaches, they have mentors, they have other things that we're going to talk about on this list. All of these things you could ask them and they have all of these things.
Yep.
Right. So let's move on to the next one, which is knowledge and growth. Okay. So we have goal and vision. We have good clarity about where we want to go. It's our compass. It is our clarity for where we want to go. We're excited to be there because we have such good clarity of our long-term vision and our goals. We have gotten coaching and guidance. We've surrounded ourselves with coaches and mentors who they know how to get there. They know how to get us to the top of the mountain, and they're walking it with us so that we get there faster. We get stuck less. We spend less time being stuck. We avoid the pitfalls, all of that. Number 3 is knowledge and growth.
Yeah.
Having coaches and mentors are not, that is not there to be your easy button, right? Necessarily. It's there because we need it to move faster and to spend less time being stuck. But ultimately, if we want to be permanently sustainable with weight loss and health, we actually have to become the person who is knowledgeable and skilled and capable of achieving and maintaining those goals, right?
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of knowledge and education that is required and a certain amount of personal growth that is required to be able to do that, right? So this is like, you've got to learn about nutrition. You've got to learn about, and build skills with working out and, getting into the gym. One of the biggest things that I hear from so many people that we work with is, I want to work out, but I'm intimidated by the gym. Right? Why are you intimidated by the gym? Well, because you don't know what you're doing. You have a gap you have a gap of skill, and you're not comfortable with the gym because you don't know what you're doing in the gym, right? If we close that gap and we give you the knowledge and the skill around how to go and work out confidently, well, now you're not uncomfortable going to the gym and you feel much more confident, doing it, you know? So knowledge and growth is like 2 distinct, different key pieces of this third ingredient. The knowledge is like the actual skill and education needed to do the things that create your physical, results, nutrition, food and exercise skills, routines, learning how to do routines and habits, time management, healthy boundaries. These are all practical skills that we have to actually learn and get good at. And then the other side of it is, like I said, it's the personal growth, because, it's one thing to know what to do. It's a whole other thing to actually do it and do it consistently. And it's so easy to get bogged down if we don't have good mental and emotional skills, coping skills and frameworks. This is really where the mental and emotional health comes into play. We can have all the right strategies and tactics and all the stuff when it comes to food and nutrition and exercise, but yet we can't get ourselves out of bed in the morning, or we binge eat all the time, or we emotionally or stress eat all the time because we don't know how to cope with life.
Right.
So this is where knowledge gives you the capability to get there. Personal growth gives you the ability to not shoot yourself in the foot. Constantly on the way to getting to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. As you said, there's like a profound distinction between the two, even though they're kind of like within the same or under the same umbrella. There's the profound distinction in that with knowledge, the way I like to look at knowledge is, especially when it comes to anything like nutrition or fitness wise, have strong opinions about them, but have them loosely held. So always be open-minded to anything, because we're awash with all kinds of information that comes out. And there are some like objective sources, such as your coaches who have credentials, who have learned from credible sources. But even then, I still have strong opinions about certain things, but then I loosely hold them because I learned so many other things that are like, you know what, that actually makes more sense, or that works a lot better for me in my situation. And learning that is also a part of growth, because then you grow into this new person of, okay, this is my new belief. This is what I exercise now. And, this works better for me. And part of that knowledge is learning that, part of that knowledge and growth is learning that there is no best diet, like a one size fits all. It's all just what works best for you. And by having these strong opinions about certain things, but, being open-minded to everything else, you then find within that, what works best for you and what the best diet is for you. And then part of the growth is simply just followed by action. I mean, you take action, and sometimes it sucks. Sometimes you're scared to do it, or sometimes it's, not really You're a little reluctant to do so,
Yeah.
but it's so important for growth. And sometimes you have to take actions in cases where you don't have a choice,
Yeah.
which is really important. So,
Yeah. I think what you're hitting on is really important is that when it comes to long-term, permanent, sustainable weight loss, just like everything else that we've talked through, goals and vision, getting coaching and guidance, knowledge and growth is something that is something you have to continuously be engaged in. The moment you stop pursuing and learning new things and developing your skills and refining your skills, and the moment you stop trying to do hard things that are maybe outside of your current skill set and kind of pushing those limits, you start to regress. You start to become stagnant, right? So if we're talking about real, true, long-term, permanent, sustainable health and wellness, part of that is continuous learning and growth, where you are continuously challenging yourself and continuing to evolve throughout the months and the years, and that it keeps you in this stance of forward momentum, right? Whereas one of the biggest mistakes that I see people that really causes them to lose their progress and to go backward is they just stopped learning. They assumed that they had learned everything they needed to be successful, and it's not about what you're learning. It's about that you're learning, right? It's the act of pursuing constant learning and growth that kind of wards off stagnation. It keeps motivation high. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's why I feel like I'm preaching right now that goals and vision has to continuously be renewed. And you have to continuously revisit your goals and your vision for your life to keep it fresh. You have to consistently be engaged with coaches and guidance and mentors, because they will give you sources of continuous knowledge and growth. But you have to continuously seek knowledge and growth almost on a daily basis to keep you in that stance of forward momentum, because it keeps you. It's like I think about it like the analogy of a steamship, right? Or like think about like a massive cruise liner, right? Like those big Carnival ships or Royal Caribbean ships out in the ocean, right? Those things are massive, and it takes so much energy to get those things moving, right? So imagine you've got this massive cruise ship that represents you and your forward momentum on your journey for sustainable health and wellness. And it is your constant, consistent, daily pursuit of new knowledge and growth and challenging yourself that is like your engines keeping that momentum, keep you moving, right? But man, the second you stop learning and you stop growing, it takes a while for that cruise ship to slow down to a stop, doesn't it? But that's why it's deceiving. Like, we can coast for a while, but what almost always happens when people make this mistake is they stop learning, they stop growing. And it's like that frog, like you heard the analogy of, if you throw a frog into a boiling pan, it'll jump right out. But if you put a frog into a boiling pan and turn it on and slowly heat it up, it'll boil to death, right? Well, it's like what happens is people get cocky, they get to their goal, and they assume they've learned everything they need to learn, and they're just good. And then they wake up 6 months later and they realize, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I'm struggling. My motivation has dipped down. I've lost my momentum. And now I feel like I'm starting to gain weight back. And they're like, oh, I can't even get back on track. You're that cruise liner that turned off your engines, and you allowed yourself to drift to a stop. And now it's going to take a massive amount of energy and help to get you back going again. You have to crank up the engines, and now you have to go back to your goals and your vision. You have to go back to your coaches and your mentors, and you have to go back to pursuing daily knowledge and growth. And it's going to take you time. It's going to take you time to get that massive ship moving again. But by golly, when you get it moving again, hopefully this time you will keep the engines running and keep pursuing, refining your goals and vision over time. Just like that cruise ship, it doesn't just go to one destination and never leave. It goes to one destination, it sets its sights on another destination, right? I see how, I just love analogy. All this stuff works together. So goals and vision, coaching and guidance, knowledge and growth. And then number 4 on the list is community, right? You've got to surround yourself with a community or a tribe of like-minded people who share your values, who what is important to you is important to them. They're prioritizing the same things that you're prioritizing. You're all pursuing the same life, right? You are all bought into the pursuit of a life of being permanently and sustainably healthy and whole and well, right? And people really underestimate the power of community in a tribe.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those things where we have people who come into our program all the time and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I just love, you know, obviously they love being coached and they love having the help of coaches, but they tell us all the time, even more than that, what helped them even more than that was being surrounded by all these other people that they got to know. And they developed relationships with these other people who are pursuing the same things. And because of that, even though they were still going out and doing life and going out to eat with family who wasn't, you know, on the same journey as them, or going on vacation, or they have friend circles and things like that, where maybe those people weren't necessarily 100% on the same page as them, but they had coaches and they had this other community of people that they were pursuing their goals with that helped to kind of keep them on the path.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's virtually impossible to be permanently long-term sustainable if you are not surrounded with other people who want that same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I always kind of think about, whenever it comes to community, first of all, I do think about our program, because we have all kinds of, you know, pods with other people who are sharing the same journey, and you know,
connect people together.
Absolutely.
You know?
And in a way, like, that community is almost like a group of mini coaches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they hold each other accountable. They're, you know, asking how each other are doing throughout the day, and they're honest with each other, and you know, develop relationships, just like you said. But another thing that I think about when it comes to community is when I started CrossFit. It's like, before, you know, I love working out in general. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just like anyone else. If I had a day where I didn't feel like going to the gym, I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
But nowadays, whenever I do have those days, because I still have them, I still have days where I don't want to go to the gym. I really just want to go home and play video games. Even when I do have those days, I think about going and seeing all of my friends at CrossFit.
Yeah.
And that motivates me enough to go. I'm like excited to go. Those people are always, I feel like they're just the hardest workers ever. And they push me, they inspire me, and we all have great relationships. We're all like-minded.
Yeah.
And everyone has a vision there. And that's so crucial whenever you're starting any kind of journey, is to have some sort of like group or community, a mastermind, whatever. It's, you know, you got to have some sort of support within you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it takes so many different forms, right? When it comes to permanent and sustainable weight loss, you've heard the saying, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most, right? So, you know, it's one thing, of course, is super important, and we provide this for our clients, where we surround them with a community of other people on the journey, and that's extremely effective. And those people become their people, like their tribe. And they're like, I don't want to live without these people, right? And it's incredibly powerful. But it's also really hard, because sometimes when you really commit yourself to a life, like pursuing a life where you really want to be permanently and sustainably healthy and well, it requires certain things of you. It requires certain changes to your nutrition and your decision-making processes and what you prioritize when it comes to your time, prioritizing time to go to the gym and to be active and to do certain things. There are certain just requirements of what it is required to do that. And it can make it really hard on people, because, you know, you can be pursuing this life, but then sometimes you find very quickly that you have, you know, maybe a whole circle of friends that you spend a lot of time with that are just not at all interested in that.
Yeah.
And that can be really difficult. And, you know, in the short term, a lot of times you can make that work, because you've got this other community of people over here in our program that is really, you know, supporting you. But, you know, at some point in time, oftentimes we have to really actually stop and examine, okay, do I need to make some changes to my friendship circles, to the people that I hang out with? And do I need to find ways to surround myself with people who are much more in alignment with my values and my goals and my vision for my life? Their vision is very similar to, you know, to my vision. And I know that sounds harsh. You know, I'm not telling everybody listening to this that they need to go dump all their friends who aren't, you know, but I'm just saying that it is something to inspect.
Yeah.
You
Be
know,
mindful of who you're spending your time with.
just be mindful of it. You know, like Joni and I, my wife, we joke around all the time about how we don't have any friends, right? We have a very small group of friends, like our neighbors who live next to us. We're pretty close to them, and our kids play together, and we hang out here and there. But outside of that, we have very, very, very small, tight friendship circle, and that's by design, right? We have a very small, tight friendship circle that is very, very curated to make sure that the people who we do spend time with and who are in that friendship circle are very like us. Like they want the same things. They are faith based. They pursue health. They are, you know, they align with us in so many different ways when it comes to our values, that they are like our tribe. You know, I think back all the way back to like before we had fancy houses that we lived in, and you know, this first world, you know, reality and society that we lived in, where we all live in our own homes, separate from everybody else. Way back in the day, human beings did not live that way, right? We all lived together as a tribe, and we moved together. Everything we did was together, and like as a tribe, it was very much, we all had the same values, the same purpose, the same mission, the same vision. We were all there supporting each other. And as our society has evolved, our community and our lifestyle has evolved to where we're very isolated, right? We're isolated in that we live in our own homes, but then we go and we're around people who often have totally different goals, and like we like them personality wise, and we can have fun together, but oftentimes it just causes this rub, right? So I'm not telling everybody to dump their friends, but I am saying, you know, if you look at all the people who have really been successful doing this, the 1 in 10, those people who have legitimately achieved permanent and sustainable weight loss, they have started curating who they spend their time with. They have distanced themselves from certain people who don't align in the same ways. And that's hard, but it is oftentimes somewhat a requirement. Doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it, but it does mean that it is oftentimes required if you are serious about pursuing that. Unless you are one of those people who just does not care, and you can go around those people and be like, you guys do whatever you want to. I'm going to do me and you do you, and we can all be together. But a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people just really struggle. A lot of people go into groups of other people in social situations, and they kind of crumble to under the pressure.
Yeah, we're like chameleons. We blend into our environment.
Yeah. It's a natural human thing because we want to be loved and accepted by those who we're spending time with. So it's like you can fight against that if you want to, but most people can't. So we have to kind of instead, I think, be smart and surround ourselves with people who, when we try to be a chameleon with them, it actually benefits us.
And that's part of the growth aspect of all this. It's
totally,
you know, just being, you know, having that choice, or being mindful of that choice. Like, what's going to serve me most in this situation? Like who I'm spending my time with and everything. So I think that's a huge part of the growth aspect.
For sure. And I think it's also one of the biggest mistakes that people do make, right? You know, we'll have folks who come into our program and they get into our community and they do so just amazingly well, right? And a lot of vast majority of our people that we were working with now, they just grow to love that community so much that they just become ongoing, almost perpetual members of that community to some aspect, because they don't want to leave their tribe. But there are those who kind of have that level of confidence where they will say, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to live my best life. And some of them do great with it, right? But some of them get out there and then 2 or 3 months later, they reach back out to us and they say, I'm in trouble, right? My engines are cool. My cruise ship has come to a screeching halt and I'm in trouble and I need help. And they have to come back in. And what happened is they left a community and a tribe, and they went out and they tried to be the one person in a group of, you know, surrounded by, you know, the other people who didn't share the same values, you know, and they became a chameleon in the wrong groups, right? They succumbed to the pressures of the wrong groups. So this is something, just like everything else on this list, this is something that you can't just do once and then go out and be okay without it. I don't care how strong-willed you are. We all benefit from community. We all benefit from having a tribe and surrounding ourselves with people who elevate us, instead of take us backwards.
I have one more example. for this. And I think this was hilarious. So it's another CrossFit example. But so this past weekend, I went to the CrossFit Games.
Yep.
First of all, that's the best looking crowd you will ever see. Everyone's in shape. I felt so average there.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is like the perfect example because that there's like a vendor village where you can buy all kinds of food, your beverages and everything. Everyone in the crowd is drinking like water, like some sort of hydration drink, energy drinks or something. No one's having alcohol. There are these guys who are down at the bottom, the vendors who are like, get your beer, like cold beer and everything, just empty line. And then even in the tents, like in the vendor village, the beer line is so empty. And it's because of the crowd you're in. No one's, if it were like a football game or something.
Oh, it'd be backed up.
Packed.
Yeah.
But, there at the games, you're talking about people who really are conscious about not only their health, but their fitness. Like they want to perform at their absolute best. Yeah. And, the beer line was completely empty. So, I mean, that's just another perfect example of, you blend in with the community you're in and it matters so much. It's your tribe.
That's such an amazing example. And there's so many cool lessons that you can pull out of that, right? Yeah. So one that comes to mind is the beer line, right? Like no doubt there are people in that crowd that drink beer. You drink beer.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. But the fact that nobody else is getting up and going to get beer, what did you do? You didn't get up and go get beer. Maybe even you wanted a beer, but you were like, nobody else is drinking beer, so I'm not going to be the one dude that goes up and gets beer, right? The influence of that, like it is so powerful. The design of the group of people that you are in can set you up for success and elevate you, or it can take you in the opposite direction, right? And so I just absolutely love that whole, like, the imagery there is, you've got to design your tribe to enrich your life and your goals and in your vision. Otherwise, it is going to slowly erode your goals and your vision and take you in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Arguably, that's probably one of the most important ones on this list, honestly.
100%. I 100% agree with that. So awesome. The next one here and the last one on the list is acceptance.
This is a difficult one.
But it's in my opinion, probably one of, if not the most important. So acceptance. What do I mean by acceptance? If you're going to be permanently and sustainably successful with weight loss and becoming healthy and whole and well for the rest of your life, and you're never going to turn back, the first thing that you really should start with on your journey is accepting what that means. Because so many people will get started on this journey and they'll say, yep, I can't wait to get to my goal weight. It's going to be great. But then when they actually get on the journey and they start realizing, okay, well, that means I'm going to have to say no here, and I'm going to have to be disciplined here, and I'm going to have to choose working out instead of Netflix or video gaming, or I'm going to have to, there's all these decisions, hard decisions and discipline and sacrifice that requires. Yeah. And it requires so much more discipline and sacrifice than it used to because of the world we live in. Like we live in a world where everybody's partying and drinking and going out and enjoying food at all these wonderful restaurants with all this great tasting food, So, 50, 70 years ago, being healthy didn't require so much sacrifice. Right. Because most people were healthy. Look at pictures. Like family pictures and high school graduation pictures, class pictures, and like class reunion pictures from people 70 years ago. And they're all skinny. Yeah. They're all healthy. Look at them now. It's insane. Yeah. Right? Why? Because the world we live in is very different. So if you're going to be, like going back to the statistics, right? 90% of people who try to lose weight gain it all back again and more. Why? It's because they're trying to pursue a goal in a world that is not designed for us to be able to do that. So what that means is if you are going to be permanently and sustainably healthy and whole and well, you're going to lose the weight, you're going to get all the way there and never go back. You've got to start by accepting what that means. You've got to basically accept that while you will still be able to have pizza and burgers and fries and ice cream and candy and all those things that you love to eat, you'll still be able to have those things. That's part of our curriculum that we teach people in our program. We literally teach people how to strike that balance.
Yeah.
So that you never have to just never eat certain things again. But the reality is you'll never be able to do it like you used to. Like you'll never be able to go out and indulge in the frequency and the amount that you used to. You'll never be able to eat your favorite candy as much as you used to. You'll never be able to indulge in ice cream as much as you used to. You'll never be able to do certain things as much in the same way that you used to. That is just a fact. It is a reality because the calorie density of our food is so high. There's no way. There are so many opportunities to indulge in our lives, in our homes, and outside of the home. There is no way we could ever possibly indulge at every opportunity. And in fact, if we actually want to be, at our like ideal, Disney brochure goal weight and life and body, it's the reality is the ratio of no's to yeses for indulgences is kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Really.
It's a lot higher.
It requires discipline and sacrifice. It just does.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm ending this lesson in this podcast with acceptance is because if you do not accept that, then you will resist it every step of the way. Right? Every time you go out to eat, you're going to have this massive internal battle about feeling that fear of missing out.
Yep.
And you're going to cave every single time. And you're going to hate going out to eat. You're going to hate putting yourself around other people. You're going to hate this. You're going to hate that. Because you are resisting the reality of being healthy and whole.
Yeah.
But if you accept it, first step is acceptance. Then the second step is actually embrace it. Don't just accept it. Don't just accept the realities of I'm going to have to prioritize working out and being active every day of my life. I'm going to always have to think about my food from here on out. Don't just accept those realities. Actually embrace it, right? Let's go back to the analogy of the mountain climber, right? A mountain climber who's going to climb Mount Everest is not begrudgingly climbing Mount Everest. They're not being forced to climb Mount Everest. They're not complaining the whole way up Mount Everest about the whole experience and all the things that they've had to do to climb Mount Everest, right? Is it hard? Excruciatingly hard, right? They're going into one of the most difficult, harsh environments known to man. They're doing one of the most difficult feats. If you climb Mount Everest, there are dead bodies all the way up that mountain to the top of the mountain that have been there for years. Because it's not even worth it to risk someone else's life to remove that body from the mountain. Yeah. And they literally are there serving as a reminder to people of how dire the circumstances are on that mountain, right? But yet, if you look up pictures of Mount Everest, there are lines of people climbing that mountain. Like there's this huge line of people going up to the summit of Mount Everest, right? Every one of those people accepted before they took that first step to climb that mountain, they accepted the harsh realities of wanting to climb that mountain. Yeah. And they embraced it. So they're not complaining their way up the mountain. They're like this weird, twisted kind of like delighting in this experience of climbing the mountain, right? And that's why there's so few mountain climbers in the world.
Yeah.
Think about the percentage of people in the world who will actually go and climb Mount Everest.
Very small.
Very small,
Very
right?
small.
Very tight correlation to the amount of people that actually are successful with permanent and sustainable weight loss.
Yeah.
And the reason is because if you look at every person who has lost the weight and never turned back, they do not go into, BJ's Brew House or Applebee's or like wherever it might be, Buffalo Wild Wings or wherever it is with their friends and sit there and have this horrible internal battle every single time. They have accepted that they already know they're not going to be able to indulge every time.
Yep.
right? And so there are times they go in and they indulge because they know that they're at a place where they can do it. And then there's other times when they go in, they know, I just indulged yesterday or a week ago, and I'm not in a place where I can indulge. I'm going to have to order just some grilled chicken tenders and maybe some like carrots and celery and a Coke Zero or something like that, or a water. Like they're not going to be able to indulge every time. And so it is just so important that we accept this, and that we not only accept it, that we embrace it.
Yep.
And the last analogy I'll give here that I think is really helpful is because a lot of people are like, okay, Matt, I get it. Like, I just accept it, right? But that's like, how do I do that? Well, let's talk about the analogy of driving a car on the road, okay? Most of the people who are listening to this podcast have a driver's license, and they drive a car every single day of their lives, right? When you decide to get your driver's license and you get behind the wheel of a car and you get out there on the road on the highway every single day, there are a certain number of realities that you have to accept in order to go and do that, to have the privilege of doing that every single day, right? There's never a day that you get behind the wheel of a car, especially if you have your family and your loved ones in there with you, where you are just not even paying attention to what you're doing. You have to always be very aware and engaged and focused when you're driving behind the wheel of a car. There's never a time that you can just throw all of caution to the wind and not obey the traffic laws. You can, but it doesn't end well.
Nope.
Right? You have to stop at the stop signs. You have to stop at the stoplights. You have to follow the speed limit for the most part. There are just realities that you have to accept. Now, does accepting that you have to follow the street laws, the rules of the road, and stop at stop signs, and you have to always be aware and focused when you're out there on the road, does that ruin the experience of getting into your car and having the freedom to go anywhere you want and do anything you want?
No, you're still going to see beautiful places.
You're still going to see beautiful places. You're still going to go and do fun things, but you have to accept the rules of the road to do it.
Yeah.
You have to accept that there's never going to be a day that you're going to get behind the wheel of that car and just be nonchalant about it.
And your attitude matters so much behind that, because you could look at it in one sense like, I got to follow these traffic laws because they're keeping me safe, or it's I get to follow these traffic laws so I don't die here.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
It's literally complete change of attitude there and perception.
Now, does that mean that you don't get like angry in traffic sometimes? You have really frustrating moments? Of course. But the same is true of being on a permanent and sustainable lifelong journey of health and wellness. There are going to be moments when you're going to go into a restaurant, and because of maybe either prior or previous and recent indulgences or what your scale said that morning, you're going to see a red light. You're going to need to make a different decision. Is it sometimes kind of stink to have to do that? Yeah, it does. Just like it stinks when you're in a hurry to get somewhere and the light turns right ahead of you, or there's a wreck and you get stuck in traffic on the way to your vacation destination, right? Sometimes it sucks, but that is the reality. So we have to accept it. And the sooner we accept it, the sooner we stop fighting every situation and every step of the way.
Yeah.
And if we actually embrace it, then we can start to be... that's where it really, I think, starts to get fun. I think back to when I was at Ryder Logistics before I owned the gym and started this program. I was working for Ryder in one of their warehouses, and I loved all of my prior coworkers, and some of them might have even watched this. But there were times back then when I was really hardcore about pursuing my goals, and I was meal prepping everything and coming in with my really healthy meals and Tupperwares, and I was going into these boardrooms with meetings all the time where they had bought massive amounts of pizza, right? And I would go into these boardrooms and sit down with my little Tupperware of healthy, a healthy meal warmed up and prepared, and I would get sometimes these really snide, they would razz me. The guys at Ryder, I love them all to death. They're all amazing people, and they did it in good fun, but they would sometimes make fun of me.
Yeah.
And because I had accepted and embraced this life, I kind of felt this sense of pride in that, right? If I hadn't have it practiced true acceptance of this and really embraced it, the challenge of it, like a mountain climber, I would probably have been hurt.
Yeah.
And it would have put me in a mental funk, feeling like I'm being made fun of and I'm not one of the guys, and maybe I should just eat the pizza and all that stuff. But because I had fully accepted and embraced this lifestyle and like taken the challenge, like embraced the challenge of it, I would walk in like with my head held high and I was like waiting, like, come on, guys, razz me, give it to me. Like, because deep down, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm like a mountain climber. I'm like one of the few people who is climbing this mountain while everybody else is eating pizza.
Yep.
And like everybody else in this room is being lazy and, and eating the pizza, and they're complaining about their weight. They're complaining about their aches and their pains. And like, I'm making the hard decisions. I'm like, I'm doing this. Right. And again, I'm not talking down about any of them. I love them all. They were awesome, amazing people. But there was this sense of pride that I had in those environments where I was like, I'm doing something hard. Like, I'm doing something that others are not willing to do right now. And that feels good. And that was a huge part of building my confidence, like my self-confidence and my self-appreciation and like my belief in myself, that has now carried and sustained me, a lot longer on this journey.
So regardless of what journey you're on, the acceptance is accepting the mountain that you're climbing. You're going to be, regardless of what journey, you're going to be climbing a mountain in some way, shape, or form. So accepting that is the biggest part. And then the difference between making it to the top or the bottom is your attitude. Is your attitude and your resourcefulness. And your habit of leaning into your coaches. It's the difference of starting to climb the mountain with the right tools and the guide, as opposed to climbing the mountain with boxing gloves. It's it's a clear distinction, and you can tell who's going to make it to the top and who's not. And I always I made this post the other day about like keeping it simple. You don't. The truth is, you don't want an easy life. An easy life, there's no room for growth. There's no accomplishment in the challenges you'll face. The truth is, you want a simple life. So and they're not synonymous to each other. You just want simplicity in everything, in every journey you have. Keep it simple, and follow your guide. Use the right tools. And change your attitude. Have a good attitude about what you're doing.
Absolutely. I think the biggest mistake that people make with acceptance is, besides the fact that they oftentimes just don't do it, right, is their expectation when they start losing weight or pursuing this is that there's going to be some finish line at the end when they won't have to think about their food all the time. Like, they're thinking like, oh man, I can't wait till I get there and I don't have to worry about this all the time. No. If that is your expectation, you're never going to get there, number one. And number two, you're going to hate this. You are going to hate this life. Right? So that's why I say acceptance is like, have you actually stopped to get good with the reality and the life that you're signing yourself up for? This is so important that now when I interview people to come into the Healthy and Whole program, every single person, I now stop them before we accept them into the program, and I ask them straight up, before we move forward, I need to know, like, are you good with what you're signing yourself up for? The life, not this program. Are you good with the life and what this reality will mean? Because I'm telling you right now, your life will never be the same. You will still be able to have pizza. You'll still be able to have whatever your favorite foods are, but it's never going to be the same as it was before. Are you good with that? Because if you are, let's go. I'm ready to do it. Let's climb this freaking mountain together. But if you're not ready, and it's not gonna. We should not climb this mountain, because you're gonna be one of the dead bodies on the way to the top. That is a cautionary tale, right? And I know that sounds harsh, but it is so true.
It's the truth.
You've got to start the journey with acceptance of the fact that this is going to be different, so that when you are in those situations where you have to make difficult sacrifices, you don't begrudge every single one. And you are excited about where you're going.
And by the way, knowing that it's challenging makes it less challenging. Embracing the challenge makes it seem fun. And it's like, oh, okay, it's really not that bad.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. So all comes down to attitude. And really what I get at here when I talk about acceptance and embracing it is, it's your heart relationship to the life that you want to lead.
Who you want to be.
And who you want to be. Right? I did a talk at a church here in Indianapolis a few weeks ago, and the whole talk was about grit, right? And we talked about this theory this theme of acceptance, and we pulled all these like great scriptures out of the Bible And, like if you look at scripture, it actually says that, we should delight in the challenges. We should delight in perseverance, because challenges create and perseverance creates growth, and it changes us. It hardens us in good ways, right? It strengthens us. And I talked about, Jesus Christ is the best example of this, right? Jesus Christ and his pathway to the cross and the sacrifice that he made for all of us, right? He knew what he was doing. From every step of the way, he talked about it to those close to him. He told them what was going to happen. He had fully accepted and embraced the journey that he was on and where he was going. And because of that, he wasn't crying and grieving the whole way. He went there, and I can't remember exactly which book in scripture it is, but he says he went there for the joy, right? For the joy. He went to the cross for the joy of it, not for the difficulty of it, not for the sacrifice, not for the notoriety, not for the fame, not for what other people would think. He went there for the joy of it, right? And so if you can shift your mind like he did, and you could take this journey for the joy of it and not begrudge it, you will go all the way to the mountaintop. You will build your house at the top of the mountain, and you will stay there for the rest of your life. But if you don't do that, and you don't do the other things that we talked about here, meaning goals and vision, and frequently revisiting that, right? Mountain climbers don't climb one mountain and never climb a mountain, another mountain again. They find the next mountain and the next mountain and the next challenge to climb that's going to challenge them in a new way, right? So goals and vision, surrounding yourself with coaches and guides and mentors to help you climbing the mountain, to help you avoid the pitfalls, to help get you there faster, to help you along the way. Learning and pursuing the knowledge and the education and the skills and the personal growth that comes from challenging yourself and doing that continuously for the rest of your life. Surrounding yourself with a community and a tribe permanently, right? And is just not for a time, but sort of seeking to build that out, and to always making sure that you're surrounded by a community and a tribe that shares your values is super important. And then lastly, but actually you should start with this, is full on radical acceptance of the life and the identity that you are choosing to step into. And if you do these things, I am telling you right now, if you do these 5 things, you will get there. There will be challenges along the way. It will not be easy. Accept it. But you will get there, because you will have the community, you'll have the coaches and the mentors, you'll have the motivation from having a vision that you are super excited to pursue. You will have all the knowledge and the skills, the ability to grow through any challenge, and you will have mentally and emotionally committed yourself and accepted and embraced that identity.
I honestly can't think of anything else besides these 5 things.
Yeah.
That are crucial to any kind of journey. This isn't just like one journey.
Yeah.
This is everything.
Yeah, you could apply this to absolutely anything that you want to accomplish in life. Sure, there's like a lot of little things that roll up into the umbrella of these things, like how you eat and all that stuff. But these are the core principles, the core ingredients for sustainable weight loss. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have not yet and you got value in this, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button and then hit the notification button so that you get notified every time we release a new episode. And we'll see you next time.
Deuces.
See ya.